Welcome to the Classic Soap Operas podcast. Today, we're really getting into the story behind one of TV's absolute cornerstones, a real giant of daytime drama, Search for Tomorrow.
It's quite something, isn't it? Ran for, 35 years? Just incredible longevity. Kicked off way back on CBS September 3rd, 1951, and kept going right up until December 26th, 1986.
35 years. And the amazing thing, the thing that always blows my mind is Joanne Gardner, the central character.
Right.
Played by the same actress, Mary Stewart, for that entire run.
Yeah, the whole time. That's almost unheard of. That consistency is just remarkable.
It really is. And it means the show was truly built around her journey, Joanne's journey. We saw her life unfold, her ups, her downs. And through her, you kind of saw how women's roles were changing over 4 decades.
Absolutely. It was a mirror, in a way. So our goal today is to unpack that whole journey. We've got all this great material you shared, and we want to look at how the show started, how it changed.
Yeah, the evolution from, those early 15-minute black and white live shows. Can you imagine? To the later color, half-hour taped episodes. And we'll get into the challenges, the behind-the-scenes stuff, the creative clashes.
Oh, yeah, there were definitely some of those. And how it dealt with the whole changing TV landscape, which could be pretty brutal.
It really feels like the story of Search for Tomorrow is kind of the story of daytime TV itself, doesn't it?
It really is a perfect microcosm. How it began, how it adapted, the battles it fought. It's all there.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning then. 1951. What was daytime TV even like back then? Why was Search for Tomorrow's debut such a big deal?
Well, you got to remember, TV itself was still pretty new, especially network daytime stuff. There'd been a few tries at TV serials before. But Search for Tomorrow, it was really the first one that became a genuine long-term success.
Okay. So not the absolute first ever, but the first one that really proved the soap opera format could work and last on TV.
Exactly. It wasn't just a flash in the pan. It kind of set the template, showed it could be done. And it was created by Roy Windsor.
Right. I recognize that name. He was busy that year, wasn't he? The material says he also launched Love of Life in 1951, too.
Yeah, he was foundational. And the early writing team had some key players. Agnes Nixon actually wrote the first 13 weeks.
Wow, Agnes Nixon. Of All My Children and One Life to Live fame?
The very same. Before she built her own empire, she was writing for Search. It's amazing how connected it all was. After her, Irving Vendig took over as head writer for those crucial early years.
And for a lot of that early time, it was short. Just 15 minutes a day.
15 minutes. Trying to tell an ongoing story in that time. Oh, wow.
And as you said, live. Every single day. Live on air. The pressure.
Must have been immense. No room for error, really. Yeah. And of course, it was all in black and white for ages.
Yeah, the material says it didn't go to color until, spring of 67? So for over 15 years, its whole look was defined by black and white.
That's right, that classic early TV look.
Speaking of the look, let's talk about the opening, that famous opening shot.
Oh, yeah, the clouds. That time-lapse shot of clouds drifting by. It was kind of soothing, wasn't it?
It really was. And apparently they used that basic visual concept for the entire 35-year run, just updating it over time.
That's right. And the title, Search for Tomorrow, superimposed over it. Usually in a nice sort of elegant italic font, like Baskerville or Garamond, the material suggests, with that little flourish on the T in Tomorrow.
Yeah, the swashed-top T gave it a bit of class. And the theme music back then, it's described as sounding a bit like Beyond the Blue Horizon.
Some people thought so, yeah. It had that kind of hopeful, looking forward sort of feel. Matched the visuals perfectly.
And it wasn't a recording, right? It was live organ music.
Live organ. That was the signature sound. Chet Kingsbury did the very first episode, and then Bill Meader played for years. Imagine the organist playing live in the studio, reacting to the drama.
That's amazing. And the end credits were different, too. Not scrolling, but individual cards flashing on screen.
Yep, separate cards. Name it on one font, usually Garamond. Roll in another, like a sans serif. Yeah. Very straightforward, very 50s.
So let's get to the heart of it. Joanne Gardner. Mary Stewart. She was the anchor from day one.
Absolutely. Portrayed as this, relatable Midwestern housewife in this fictional town, Henderson. That was the starting point.
But it wasn't just her. Her neighbors, Stu and Marge Bergman, were huge parts of the show early on, weren't they? Larry Haynes and Melba Ray.
Oh, essential. The material really highlights how much screen time they shared, often just sitting around Joe's kitchen table, drinking coffee, talking things through. That everyday reality really connected with viewers.
Like real friends. And they were there right from the start, too, alongside Joanne, Stu, and Marge. They had a daughter, Janet.
Right, little Janet. So that trio, Joanne, Stu, Marge, they were the emotional core for a long, long time, representing that sense of community.
And Joanne's early problems, they weren't huge, like spy plots or anything, right? More domestic stuff.
Exactly. Very relatable. Her first husband, Keith Barron, died pretty early on in '52, and then she had to deal with his difficult family, especially the mother-in-law, Irene, who wanted custody of Joe's daughter, Patty.
Ah, the classic meddling mother-in-law. Played longest by Lynn Loring, Patty was.
Yep. A soap staple, but done in a way that made you really root for Joanne. And after Keith's death, the show took her in a new direction. She became more independent. She started managing a hotel, the Motor Haven Inn.
Which was a pretty big deal for a woman back then, running her own business.
Definitely. And that led to different kinds of conflict. The material mentions local thugs trying to muscle in, seeing her as an easy target, trying to use the inn as a mafia front.
Wow, so it wasn't all just coffee talk. Mafia plots in Henderson.
Yeah, it introduced a bit of crime drama. There's this whole storyline about her friend Rose Peabody, played by Lee Grant for a while, among others.
Lee Grant was on Search for Tomorrow.
Briefly, yeah. Anyway, Rose got mixed up with the mob, was feeding them info, and at one point she actually tried to poison a pot of soup Joanne made.
Poison soup? Seriously, that's dark.
It was. But interestingly, the material says Rose couldn't go through with it. Poured it out at the last second. Showed she still had a conscience, I guess.
That's intense stuff for the 50s, but there was romance too, right? Arthur Tate?
Right. Terry O'Sullivan played Arthur. He had Joe with the finances for the inn, but of course his rich Aunt Cornelia hated Joanne and tried to break them up.
Naturally. Didn't work, though.
Nope. Despite Aunt Cornelia, Arthur and Joe fell in love and got married in 1955. Gave Joanne some stability after all that drama.
And the show was doing well, ratings-wise.
Oh, yeah. It was a powerhouse early on. Set records in its second season.
Yeah.
It was one of the top soaps all through the 50s. It really cemented its place.
But things started to change towards the end of the decade. New competition.
Exactly. Newer shows were popping up, starting to chip away at its dominance. The landscape was shifting, and Search would have to adapt again.
Which brings us into the 60s. The ratings were kind of flatlining a bit by 1960.
Yeah, it's stagnant is the word the material uses. Not dropping off a cliff, but not growing either. So they decided to shake things up with new writers. Frank and Doris Hersley.
The ones who wrote Westerns.
Them. An odd fit, maybe.
Yeah.
And, well, their tenure led to one of the most controversial moments in the show's history.
Okay, I think I know where this is going. 1963. The ratings weren't picking up, and the Hersleys made a really drastic decision.
Drastic is putting it mildly. They killed off Joanne's toddler son, Jeffrey.
Oof. Yeah, that's rough. How did they do it?
The material says he ran out into the street in front of a truck. Just sudden, tragic, and incredibly bleak for daytime back then.
Wow. How did Mary Stuart handle that, playing that grief?
Apparently, she threw herself into it with incredible intensity. The research mentions her makeup lady couldn't even watch her during the takes. Her grief felt so real. Stewart was reportedly furious about the storyline itself.
I bet. Did she threaten to leave?
Sources say she did. She basically told them if the Hersleys weren't fired, she'd walk. She was that protective of Joanne and felt it was just wrong for the character.
Did the storyline even help the ratings?
Doesn't seem like it, no. The ratings didn't really jump. But the Hersleys did leave later that year anyway. And here's the kicker.
Go on.
They left Search for Tomorrow and immediately went over to ABC and created General Hospital, which also premiered in 1963.
No way. So that whole controversial plot point, the conflict with Mary Stuart, their exit, it directly led to the creation of General Hospital.
Seems like it's an amazing connection. One show's controversial decision inadvertently births another daytime giant.
That's wild. Meanwhile, back in Henderson, life went on for Joanne, right? More drama with husband number 2, Arthur.
Oh, yes. Her sister, Eunice, came back to town and, well, seduced Arthur. Yeah. Classic soap betrayal.
Always the sister.
Right, and then more tragedy. A woman showed up claiming Arthur fathered her child, filed a paternity suit. Stress of that, plus the guilt of her Eunice. Arthur had a fatal heart attack.
So Joanne's a widow again. Tough breaks for her.
Really tough. And as the 60s went on, her daughter Patty grew up. The show started tackling more contemporary issues. Patty got involved with drug dealers, gang members.
Reflecting the times, I guess. The counterculture.
Exactly. The material says it showed a pretty scathing viewpoint on it, so they weren't afraid to go there. And during that time, Joanne's friend Sam Reynolds became important. Robert Mandan played him.
He used to be Arthur's enemy, right? Interesting dynamic.
Yeah. But he proved himself by saving Patty when she was in danger during that gang storyline. It looked like he and Joanne might get together. But the actor decided to leave the show. So Sam was written out before they could get married. Another potential happiness for Joanne? Gone.
Alongside all this story stuff, the show itself was changing technologically. We mentioned going from live to tape in March '67.
Huge relief for the cast and crew, I imagine.
And then color came just a few months later, September '67. That must have meant a massive visual change.
Oh, absolutely. Suddenly those opening clouds were in vibrant color. The titles got updated gold lettering, that little swash on the S in search looked much more modern for the time.
And the music changed, too. Bill Meter, the organist, composed a theme.
Yeah, a piece called Interchange, used from '68 to '74. After he passed away in '69, Ashley Miller took over on organ and even composed a short-lived theme himself, probably just used in '74.
But the live organ was on its way out by then, right?
Yeah, by spring '74, Search was one of the last soaps still using it regularly. The trend was towards pre-recorded scores. Elliott Lawrence Productions eventually took over the music.
And the show got longer, too, expanded to half an hour in '68.
Right, September 9th, 1968. Give them more room for story, and they stayed in that comfortable 12:30 Eastern, 11:30 Central time slot.
And even with new competition popping up game shows, other soaps like Ryan's Hope Search held on to that top spot in its time slot well into the late '70s.
It had incredible loyalty in that slot. Really remarkable staying power.
So moving into the '70s and early '80s, Joanne finds love again.
She does. After a dramatic storyline in 1970 where she temporarily lost her eyesight.
Always dramatic.
Always. The doctor who helped her regain her sight, Dr. Tony Vincente, played by Anthony George, well, they fell in love. Got married in '72. Third time's the charm.
We'll see. But behind the scenes, things were shifting again. A new executive producer in '74, Mary Ellis Boonham.
That's right. And she had a definite vision.
Yeah.
Make the show younger, appeal to a younger audience.
The woman who later co-created The Real World. Interesting.
Yeah, quite the career trajectory. Her push for youth on Search meant, initially, less focus on Joanne's stories and more on the younger characters.
And this led to more tension with Mary Stuart, didn't it? There were rumors Boonham wanted to kill off Joanne after Tony died on the show.
Yeah, that rumor surfaced in '75. Can you imagine? Killing off Joanne Gardner. Mary Stuart was having none of it. She apparently went public, spoke out against it in the press.
Good for her, standing up for her character.
Absolutely. And it worked. Joanne stayed. The material says the ratings did dip slightly with the youth focus, but not as heavy as expected. The core audience stuck around.
But Joanne still needed drama. Who was her main antagonist in the '70s?
Ah, that would be the wonderfully scheming Stephanie Wilkins, played by Marie Cheatham, a classic soap rival for Joanne. Provided years of conflict.
Gotta have a good villain. And they kept the connection to the past alive, too, right? Stu and Marge's daughter, Janet, came back.
Yes, she returned in '71, all grown up, became friends with Joanne's daughter, Patty, kind of mirrored the mother's friendship, a nice bridge between generations.
But sadly, Marge Bergman, the character, died on screen.
Yes, in '72. That was written in because the actress, Melba Ray, had sadly passed away the year before. A really poignant moment for the show and its longtime viewers. Stu eventually remarried to Ellie Harper.
And Stu and Joanne stayed close, running a business together.
Yeah, the Hartford House. Kind of an updated version of her old Motorhaven Inn. Kept that core friendship right at the center of the show.
And the younger stories, some were pretty wild, weren't they? Morgan Fairchild as Jennifer Page.
Oh, yeah. Described as maniacal, had an affair with John Wyatt, who was married to Joanne's sister Eunice. And then, well, Jennifer killed Eunice.
Killed her? Wow.
Apparently, she thought she had a vision of John telling her to do it. Definitely high drama. But there were popular younger romances, too, like Steve and Liza Kaslow, Michael Nouri and Meg Bennett. That clicked with viewers.
And visually, the end credits kept evolving, different fonts.
Little tweaks, yeah. News Gothic, then Grotesque Italic. By the early '80s, moving towards Helvetica or similar fonts, kind of standardizing with other P&G soaps on CBS. More corporate branding, maybe.
And the music. A big shift in '74, moving towards pop themes.
Yes, following the trend set by The Young and the Restless. Search got a new theme. We'll Search for Tomorrow. Much more contemporary pop ballad feel.
Composed by John Silberman, Jack Courtner, John Barranco. That debuted late '74.
And there was even a version with lyrics they used sometimes on the end credits until about '78. By 1980, it was more of an orchestral arrangement of that same tune.
And people liked it. It ended up on those soap theme albums.
It's quite popular. Became really associated with the show in that era. So you see them trying hard to stay modern look, sound, story, while keeping that core appeal.
But then came the 80s, and the big upheaval, the time slot troubles.
Yes. The beginning of the end, some might say. March 1981. CBS makes a huge move. They shift Search for Tomorrow out of its 12.3 Eastern home, where it had been for 30 years.
30 years. Where did they move it?
To 2.3 Eastern, 1.30 Central. A much later, much tougher slot.
Why? Why mess with something that worked for so long?
Strategy?
Yeah.
CBS wanted to give their massive hit, The Young and the Restless, which had just gone to an hour, the noon Eastern slot. That gave Y&R a half-hour jump on ABC's powerhouse, All My Children. Search was basically sacrificed to boost Y&R.
And Procter & Gamble, the producers, they weren't happy.
Not at all. They fought it. Begged CBS to put Search back. They knew how important that time slot was. They even proposed shrinking Search in Charge. As the world turns to 45 minutes each to free up time, but CBS wouldn't give up the local station time at 1 p.m.
So Search was stuck at 2.30. How did viewers react?
Badly. The material says they were confused or angered. Their routines were built around that 12.30 viewing time. Suddenly, it wasn't there.
And hadn't P&G been through this before with The Edge of Night, moving to 2.30 and having ratings problems?
Exactly. Happened just 6 years earlier. You'd think they'd learned. But nope. And the ratings for Search took an immediate hit. Dropped from a 7.6 to a 6.3 just from the disruption of the move.
Did it recover at 2.30?
A little bit. Climbed back to a 6.8, finished 8th that season. But it was now up against One Life to Live on ABC and Another World on NBC. Tough neighborhood.
And P&G kept pushing CBS for the old slot.
They did. But CBS wouldn't budge. And when the contract came up for renewal in 1982, CBS just decided to cancel it instead.
Wow, after 30 years on the network. But P&G didn't give up on the show itself.
No, the ratings were still decent, just not what they were. So, just like they did with Edge of Night, P&G went looking for a new network.
And they found one.
They did. NBC. It was a rapid turnaround. Final CBS episode aired Friday, March 26th, 1982. First NBC episode aired the very next Monday, March 29th.
That's incredibly fast. And NBC put it back in the old time slot.
Yep, back to 12.3 Eastern, 11.3 U Central. Exactly what P&G wanted.
So they launched a campaign to get viewers to switch networks. Follow the Search.
That was it. Using Mary Stewart and Larry Haynes, asking people to find them on their new channel. But there was a catch. CBS made P&G agree not to mention NBC by name in the ads.
Seriously? So they had to say, follow us to another network.
Pretty much. On the last CBS show, Mary and Larry basically said, find us next week on another channel, check your local listings. A very awkward way to handle a network switch.
So they got the time slot back on NBC. Did things improve?
Sadly, no. The material calls the move to NBC the beginning of the serial's terminal decline.
Ouch. Why was it so bad on NBC, even in the right time slot?
Two huge reasons. One, competition. It was now directly competing against The Young and the Restless on CBS. The show it was moved for on CBS was now its direct rival. And Y&R was a ratings monster.
Wait, it's brutal. What was the other reason?
Affiliate preemptions. This was a big problem for NBC daytime back then. Because NBC's ratings had been weaker in the 70s, a lot of their local stations just didn't carry the network feed at 12:30. They ran local news or syndicated shows instead because it made them more money.
So in many parts of the country, even if you wanted to follow the Search, you couldn't because your local NBC station wasn't even showing it.
Exactly. The audience was fractured right from the start on NBC. It was devastating. It also didn't help that NBC shuffled other shows around to fit Search in, canceling The Doctors in Texas soon after. It destabilized their whole lineup.
So the ratings on NBC, they just tanked.
Plummeted. Never recovered. Went from that 6.8 on CBS down to like a 3.4 almost immediately on NBC. Became one of the lowest rated soaps very quickly.
What were the numbers like?
Finished second to last in its first full NBC season. Then dead last by 1984 with a 3.2 rating. It briefly got out of the basement when Edge of Night was canceled, but fell back to last place with a 2.9 for its final season.
With ratings that low, it must have been hard to sell ads.
Very hard, except to P&G themselves, who kept it afloat mainly to advertise their own products.
And the show kept moving studios, too, during this time.
Yeah, even after switching to NBC, it stayed at the CBS Broadcast Center for a bit, until late '82, then moved to Reeves Teletape Studios, then in '85, moved again to the old Edge of Night studios at U-Screen Gems. A lot of upheaval.
Creatively, what were they doing? Still focused on Joanne?
Joanne was still there, yeah. Her final marriage was to Martin Turner, played by John Aniston.
Jennifer Aniston's dad.
That's him. But even that didn't help much. By 1984, the show really shifted focus onto two new families, the Kendalls and the McClearys, trying to inject new life.
Bringing in younger actors like Matthew Ashford, Jane Krakowski, Kevin Conroy, names we know now.
Right. A lot of talent came through, but Mary Stewart apparently wasn't thrilled with this shift. The material quotes her saying something like, they've created a new program and calling it Search for Tomorrow. Felt like she was being pushed aside, maybe by the Kate McCleary character.
That must have been hard for her after all those years. But the new families didn't save the ratings?
No, the decline continued. They kept trying cosmetic changes too. New opening sequence in late '81, just before the move. More modern, videotaped seagulls, helicopters.
And new music, a disco version of the theme.
Yeah, a Latin disco arrangement with a trumpet solo, very early '80s. Debuted right before the NBC switch. The end credits got a nighttime look. Fonts kept changing, Helvetica, Grotesque Italic, Bellway.
Crying anything, huh? And there was one last revamp near the end, February '86.
One final try. Kept the clouds, but added cast clips to the opening. And a brand new theme song, a techno-rock tune called Somewhere in the Night.
Techno-rock! Wow, that's a departure.
Yeah, by Billy Chinook. New title graphics, too. Script for Search, high-tech font for Tomorrow, final font changes for the credits, Frizz Quadrata, then Windsor. Just constant tinkering, trying to find something that worked.
But eventually, P&G had to face facts.
Yeah. In the fall of 1986, they decided to pull the plug. The material mentions one last big stunt. A flood wiped out almost the entire town of Henderson.
Wiped out the town, seriously.
Yep. Only Joanne's house and business were left standing. Talk about a dramatic climax. But it wasn't enough. NBC announced the cancellation.
When did the final episode air?
December 26, 1986, the day after Christmas. It was episode number 9,130.
Over 9,000 episodes. And at that time, it was the longest-running daytime show ever, wasn't it?
It held that record then, yeah. Since surpassed, but still an incredible achievement.
How did they end it? The final scene.
It was quiet, poignant. Just the two originals, Stu Bergman and Joanne, talking about the future. Stu asks her, what are you searching for?
And Joanne says,
tomorrow. And I can't wait. Perfect final line, really.
That's lovely. Did they do anything else?
Yeah. After the scene, there was a taped piece with the cast thanking the viewers. And Mary Stewart gave her own personal, tearful thank you. So they were wonderful years.
And the closing song?
We'll Be Together Again by Lou Rawls.
Yeah.
Interestingly, the same song used for the Love of Life finale, Roy Windsor's other show from '51. Different singer, but same song. Nice bit of symmetry.
What replaced it on NBC?
A game show called Wordplay. Started the very next Monday.
Did Search disappear completely then? Or were there reruns?
There were reruns for a bit. USA Network aired episodes late nights from '87 to '89, mostly from the first 3 NBC years. They aired it alongside Edge of Night reruns, actually.
And didn't P&G put some online later on AOL?
Yeah, for a while, starting in 2006, you could stream episodes from late '84 to early '86. But that stopped in 2008 when the AOL channel shut down.
Looking back, there's some really standout moments, some crazy stories. That missing tape incident.
Oh, yeah. August '83. Both tapes vanished. They had to do the show live for the first time in 16 years. Can you imagine the panic? Some people even speculated NBC did it on purpose for ratings, but who knows?
And the whole Hursley era, killing off the baby, Mary Stewart's reaction.
Which led directly to the creation of General Hospital. Mind-blowing connection.
The studio moves, bouncing around New York.
Tells a story in itself.
The fall of the Search campaign, where they couldn't even name NBC.
The politics of network TV.
Mary Ellis Boonham wanting to kill Joanne. Mary Stewart fighting back.
The power of a star protecting her legacy.
And just the sheer number of famous actors who got their start or passed through Henderson. Kevin Bacon, Angela Bassett, Morgan Fairchild, Olympia Dukakis, Susan Sarandon.
Zevon Klein, Jane Krakowski, John Aniston. Yeah. The list goes on and on. It was a real launch pad for talent.
It really was more than just a soap opera, wasn't it? It tracked social change, it weathered huge industry shifts, survived backstage drama, built this incredibly loyal audience over decades.
Absolutely. From live B&W to color tape, network switches. Its whole 35-year saga really mirrors the journey of daytime TV itself. The highs, the lows, the constant fight to stay relevant.
So what's the takeaway from this long, long search for tomorrow? Is it about adapting, even if it hurts? Is it about the power of one central character, one dedicated actor? Or is it maybe a cautionary tale about how even giants can fall when the ground shifts beneath them?
It makes you think, doesn't it? about how that search for tomorrow on screen kind of reflects our own lives, always pushing forward, adapting, hoping, even when things get tough. It's quite a legacy. Over 9,000 episodes worth.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the world of Search for Tomorrow. We hope you found its story as compelling as we did.
Yeah, it was great digging into this. If you enjoyed it, please do like, subscribe, maybe leave us a comment. Did you watch Search for Tomorrow? Any favorite memories? We'd love to hear from you.